It's one of the most popular forms of travel across the United States today, flying. But despite the speed and convenience it offers, getting through airport security is a hassle many of us have learned to dread. Still, even with the prohibitive rules we've gotten used to, when one Florida woman saw a fellow air traveler being forced to throw away a mysterious parcel, there was just something about the way the man's reluctance to part with the package that resonated with her. After he was made to throw the wrapped item in the trash, the woman retrieved it with the intent of finding him and reuniting him with his cherished property. But her friendly act would end up being only the start to an unbelievable story. Evelise Hernandez, a Tampa, Florida native, was on her way to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Her boyfriend, Rico Bankston, had just driven her to the St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport and was keeping her company while she waited to go in line through security. Evelise didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. It was just a normal day at the airport, until she looked at the front of the line and saw a man being forced to throw away a package he had intended to bring on board with him. Evelise's heart went out to him, and she decided to act. Little did she know that that decision would end up changing her life forever. Rico had decided to keep Evelise company while she waited to go through security, but what they had both expected would be a short wait in line soon became an unusually long delay. It seemed the inspection was taking much longer than usual. A man was attempting to convince the airport security staff to let him take a parcel with him to the plane, and their argument was holding up the rest of the line. Finally, security pulled the man aside, and Evelise and Rico could hear just how important it was for him to be allowed to take the parcel with him. Airport security, it seemed, had an issue with something in the carry-on bag of the man at the front of the line. Clearly, one of the items he had packed was considered restricted and not allowed on the flight. It wasn't clear what the package contents were, but the man was pleading with security to let him take it with him. What could possibly be in that package that would make a man willingly enter an argument with the TSA? Today, getting taken aside and asked to remove seemingly mundane items from your bag at the airport may seem like a fairly regular occurrence, but it wasn't always like this. Following the tragic events of September 11, 2001, the Transportation Security Authority, or TSA for short, have changed the security procedures on all flights throughout the United States. Because of the much tighter security measures enacted since, many items that most people would consider innocuous have become restricted. And the item the man was trying to bring on board was a huge red flag for the TSA agents screening him. Since 9/11, the sight of air travelers throwing away inconspicuous items like tubes of toothpaste and nail clippers that they'd forgotten in their bags had become a common occurrence. Even though the items may sometimes seem completely harmless, there's a good reason for each one of them being restricted. But while most of the items people are required to throw away usually don't hold any sentimental value, it seemed whatever the item the man in front of Evelise and Rico was deeply meaningful to him. The man in the line tried to plead and bargain with TSA agents, asking if there was any way the package could be transferred to the airport's lost and found instead of thrown away, but the agents coldly replied that that wouldn't be possible. Despite the man's clear emotional distress, they instructed him to deposit the package in the nearest trash bin. Despite not knowing what the contents of the package were, Evelise felt like she couldn't just stand by and let it happen. Despite the man's heartbreaking pleas, the TSA agents remained unflinching. Finally, with tears in his eyes, the man took the package and sadly threw it into the trash. Visibly shaken and sad, he continued aboard his flight. The line had cleared up, and it was now Evelise's turn to go through security. But before she said goodbye to Rico, she asked him to do something for her. Evelise knew that she couldn't take the parcel from the trash herself, since whatever was inside it would keep her from boarding the flight, but Rico wasn't flying anywhere. Evelise hugged and kissed Rico goodbye and then made a very odd request. She asked him to discreetly go through the trash bin the man had thrown the parcel into to see what caused all the commotion. It was more than just curiosity. Evelise wanted to see if they could help the old man out. While Evelise couldn't risk being seen rifling through the trash, she didn't want to raise any red flags for the TSA agents. Rico didn't have any flight to catch. He also didn't have to go through security, so he'd be free to take whatever he found in the bin back home without any intervention. Taking the parcel from the bin, he waved goodbye to his girlfriend and drove back home to Tampa. What would he find inside when he finally got home? While Rico was driving home to Tampa, Ivelisse was uneasy on her flight to Pittsburgh. She couldn't stop thinking about how the man in the security line was treated by the TSA agents and wondered what he'd been carrying that merited that kind of treatment. As soon as the plane landed safely, Ivelisse switched her phone on and called Rico. What Rico told her about the contents of the package made her realize she had to do something to make things right. Rico wasn't sure what to expect when he opened the package. What would he find there? Perhaps a knife with sentimental value or some other dangerous object? He unwrapped the parcel. He had to blink twice to make sure he was seeing what truly was the reason for the drama he'd witnessed at the airport. It was a snow globe. The little trinket seemed pretty commonplace, and Rico couldn't understand why a grown man would cause a commotion over such a small thing. But when he flipped it over, it became quite clear. The snow globe, Rico soon realized, wasn't your run-of-the-mill souvenir shop trinket. It had been specially commissioned and contained two photographs, first of a little girl and the second of an elderly couple. "We love you, Katie, Nana and Papa, 12516, was lovingly engraved at the base of the bauble. Realizing this was a gift for the granddaughter of the man at the airport, Rico and Ivelisse immediately agreed something had to be done. Ivelisse and Rico both agreed that they didn't want to just throw the globe away like the TSA agents had instructed the man to do. It was clear that the contents of the parcel they had dug out of the trash were deeply meaningful to the man, and the Florida couple decided they'd do whatever it took to track him down and return the globe to him. But that was easier said than done. Ivelisse and Rico were resourceful and motivated, but their chances of finding the man were still slim. Sure, they had a photo of the man and his wife, but no name or address. The only thing they could be certain of was that the man had passed through St. Pete Clearwater Airport on that February morning. If they wanted to track him down, they realized they'd have to get creative. The first thing Ivelisse decided to do in her search for the man the globe belonged to was to turn to social media for help. Ivelisse wrote a post on Facebook describing her side of the story and made sure to provide as many details as she possibly could. Other than that effort, however, there wasn't much else she could do. She had no other leads to go on. Still, Rico and Ivelisse were determined to see this through and to turn that man's tears at the airport into tears of joy. So, Ivelisse wrote her Facebook post. She reminded herself to keep her expectations low. Sure, she had friends on Facebook, but she wasn't exactly a social media influencer, to say the least. She and Rico were cautiously optimistic, but she didn't expect her post to break the internet. At best, she thought she might reach 200 people or so. She was entirely unprepared for what happened next. Ivelisse had hoped Facebook would help her track the man she was looking for down, but she wasn't holding her breath. But as soon as she pressed the post button, her query was out of her hands and whisked away down the internet's tumultuous currents. Within a week, Ivelisse's post, the photos of the snow globe, the engraved message, they were all shared over 48,000 times. Her story was exploding all over the social network, but still, would even 48,000 shares be enough to help her find the man she was looking for? Ivelisse's heart beat faster and faster as the share count on her post kept climbing. But despite the massive exposure her post was receiving, it wasn't clear at all if it was actually getting her closer to her goal. The more her story was getting shared, the more frustrated Ivelisse was getting. What good were all those shares if they weren't getting her in touch with the man she was looking for? One day, however, Ivelisse made a breakthrough. She'd been contacted by a person who wasn't related to the person she was looking for. They weren't even a friend. In fact, their connection to the man was circumstantial at best, but it would be enough to crack the case. The person who had contacted Ivelisse was an employee at a gift shop called Things Remembered, and while she had nothing to do with the particular snow globe in Ivelisse's possession, she did know what model and make it was, and was able to contact the headquarters of the company who manufactured the globes in Ohio and ask them if they could pinpoint the specific order with the engraving Ivelisse had shared. The worker at Things Remembered was able to return to Ivelisse with a name, Linda Mondry. Linda had ordered the snow globe for her 5-year-old granddaughter, Katie. It was Katie's dad, Michael, who was supposed to deliver the gift and who turned out to be the man Ivelisse and Rico had seen at security. Now it was just a matter of getting in touch with him. It had taken a store clerk from somewhere in the Midwest, an Ohio company's headquarters, the determination of Ivelisse and Rico from Florida, and an entire social network of millions, but finally they'd managed to piece together the identity of the owners of the globe. All they had to do now was put all the pieces together and come full circle. But this story still has a few more twists up its sleeve. Finally, Ivelisse and Rico had a name, Linda Madri. As it turned out, she lived in their area, not far from their home. With permission from headquarters, the Things Remembered employee was able to provide Ivelisse with Madri's phone number. It was around this time that local news had caught wind of the fantastic story and were eager to capture the moment on camera. But despite her great efforts, Ivelisse still didn't know just how great of an act she had done. Linda Madri, with a news crew in tow and despite a tropical Florida rainstorm, walked up to Ivelisse Hernandez's front door. The two women were connected by a simple object and a big act of kindness, but neither one of them knew what to expect from the meeting. Finally, Linda knocked on the door and waited for it to open. With a huge smile plastered across her face, Ivelisse opened the door for Linda. Their connection was immediate. After a few seconds of hesitation, the two women fell into each other's arms and hugged for a long time. Linda offered Ivelisse a bouquet of flowers, and the two women teared up. The moment was emotional. Ivelisse was filled with joy, content in the knowledge that she'd done a good deed and helped out a stranger in need. But she would soon find out she had done much, much more than that. It wasn't just that getting an engraved snow globe was a pricey process. It was also the fact that the timing, as far as Linda was concerned, was incredibly special. Her granddaughter Katie's birthday was just around the corner, and Linda had hoped the snow globe would get to her in time for the big day. If Ivelisse hadn't been there to save the gift, Katie's birthday would have been missing an important present from Grandma. But there was more to it than that. Linda had ordered the snow globe with nothing but love and kindness in her heart, and that love and kindness had been returned by Ivelisse. But it wasn't just Linda who wanted to thank Ivelisse for her selfless act. Linda wanted Ivelisse to feel just how much of an impact she had made, and so she took out her cell phone and dialed a number, with Ivelisse standing right by her side. On the other side of the line, Ivelisse could hear the voice of a man. It was Michael, Linda's son. It was him who Ivelisse had seen at the airport on that fateful day. As it turns out, when Ivelisse and Rico had seen him, Michael was just returning home from visiting his parents in Florida. Linda and her husband had given Michael the present to take back to his daughter in Ohio, and Ivelisse's timing couldn't have been better. The snow globe was inscribed with a special date on it, January 25th. But despite what you might think, it wasn't Katie's birthday, at least not exactly. It was, in fact, the date Katie's parents had adopted her on and marked the occasion of her joining the family. As far as Linda and her husband were concerned, the globe was more than just a loving gift from grandparents to a granddaughter. It was a way to reaffirm their adopted grandchild's place in their family. As Ivelisse listened to the voices coming over from Linda's phone, she realized it wasn't just Michael that she was hearing. On the other side of the line, far away in the distant Ohio, Ivelisse could hear Katie. While Ivelisse's act was exceptional, as far as she was concerned, she'd only done the things she could do. In an interview, she said that her mother had raised her to be good to others, and that if circumstances had been reversed, she'd hope someone would have done the same for her. Linda, now aware of the security restrictions concerning the globe, vowed to pack it more carefully and put it in her checked luggage rather than in her carry-on bag. She was going to Ohio to deliver the present to her granddaughter in person. People are basically really good, Linda summarized the experience, and she's just exceptional. After the story was over and done with, Ivelisse returned to Facebook to share it with the thousands of people who had helped her reach Linda, Michael, and the rest of their family. Ivelisse posted the story on the page Love What Matters, and the feedback she got for it was incredibly warm. People had nothing but praise for Ivelisse and were really happy to read the heartwarming story. 2 years after Ivelisse's ordeal with the snow globe, and she's now expecting a child of her own, we can't think of anyone more deserving of becoming a parent, and believe that if she shares the same values that drove her to help Linda and Michael with her child, they may be more than fine in life. We're also sure she'll teach her kids not to carry snow globes on flights. So why wasn't Katie Modry's snow globe allowed through airport security in the first place? As it turns out, safety regulations for snow globes state that snow globes larger than tennis balls aren't allowed to be carried on board by passengers. Snow globes smaller than tennis balls are allowed aboard a plane, but anything larger would have to be stowed away in the hold. But if you think that's strange, wait until you hear about what other items are restricted on planes. Airport security have a very strict policy when it comes to liquids, and so even canned goods containing liquid can't exceed 100 milliliters. In fact, that's the reason snow globes are banned. They contain liquid. But they aren't the only items to be banned for this reason. Over the years, the TSA has confiscated items like shoe insoles, fishing rods, and even tent pegs, all for security reasons. But if you think you'll absolutely have to carry a snow globe aboard a plane in the future, don't worry. New screening technologies are being developed today might make the need to prohibit liquids on planes redundant.